We have been joined by Dr. Auqaab Alizai, geostrategic expert, speaking to us from the UK to discuss the Norwegian foreign minister's visit to Islamabad and his talks with Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq. Now, Dr. Auqaab, first and foremost, thank you for speaking to Pakistan TV. It's always a pleasure to have you. Now, diving right in, again, we've understood that this is a 10-year hiatus at the foreign minister level. So that being said, what kind of specific geopolitical shifts have taken place that have led to this reconvening of the parties?
I think you already understand that over the past year, Pakistan has been pushing out in its foreign policy, engaging on a multilateral level at every forum it can, with Europe, with the United States, with even Russia and China, obviously, and other countries around the world, in Africa and Southeast Asia. So Pakistan is really making an effort to make a diplomatic change. But it's not just the diplomatic interaction with different countries. Pakistan has been pushing forward for the past year at least, actively engaging with other countries, and especially when this conflict erupted, Iran, and it was attacked by the United States and Israel, that Pakistan immediately, more or less, realized the security implications, the economic implications of Pakistan and the region and the wider global community, and engaged and tried to engage both sides to come to some form of resolution or mediate very actively, and it has been doing this consistently. I think that plays a large part in the way the international community now sees Pakistan as a proactive, positive force in global diplomacy. And this is what it is. This is a set piece in how diplomacy should be done. Engaging, even though it's against your own interest, to actively involved in many ways. But the fact of the matter is, Pakistan saw this not as an opportunity, but as an obligation towards global community and the peace and security that is required for the region and the wider world. And this is where Pakistan should be applauded in that way. And I think countries like Norway, as other countries are now looking at Pakistan as a potential partner in many different spheres, in economic and strategic spheres. And as you mentioned, the trilateral negotiation agreement between Turkey, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan has a large impact on how the world sees the region developing in post-conflict environment. For example, when this conflict eventually is settled, this agreement will still be there. And how is that going to impact the security of the world? I think it's a positive change. And other countries may want to become part of it as well. I think a place like when the Norwegian foreign minister was talking, I remember listening to him this morning and understanding that he and his country was very much critical of the US and Israeli attack on Iran, irrespective of their understanding of Iran. They believe that this goes against international norms. And as a result, he recognizes the part that Pakistan, the positive part that Pakistan is playing in trying to resolve a very substantial issue in global affairs right now.
Absolutely. Dr. Auqaab, one other domain or sphere that we can understand is the element of maritime as well as Arctic cooperation. So that being said, Pakistan and Norway have basically mentioned that there will be work and cooperation in this domain. So understanding this, how are we expected to see the institutional cooperation working towards maritime affairs and ocean governance frameworks?
I think there's been a recent announcement and recent play by China, in fact, to utilize the Arctic waterway to reach Europe for trade and development, rather than be blockaded through, for example, the Suez Canal and what's happening in the Red Sea, with the Houthis blockading those routes, which make it very difficult. And Pakistan and other countries are feeling the heat on this. I think maritime affairs is substantial. Pakistan has a large navy, and it's becoming more important as days go by, especially in its peacekeeping and peace operations when it comes to pirating and hijacking, especially on the African coast. And that's an important factor for Europe, in fact. and other countries around the region. So they want to ensure that Pakistan's more involved in this. And because Pakistan's been becoming more strategically aligned with the Western ideal of maintaining peace and security in different regional affairs, that Pakistan could be playing a substantial role in maritime affairs. It is a maritime country. And actually, it needs to play that part and become part of the global community in this respect. And I think that would bring further benefits to Pakistan as slowly we become entrenched in the wider global community and economic activities and dividends that will come our way.
Absolutely. One last thing before we conclude this, just understanding this from a geostrategic point of view. We've understood that Oslo and Islamabad have basically shared their diplomatic positions on various agendas. But when it comes to sustainable development and human rights and international law, especially the element of Palestine and Kashmir, could you provide some insight towards that?
I think Palestine has been on the table for a long time, same with Kashmir. They're long-running disputes. In the forefront has been Palestine, the atrocious attacks on Gaza by the Israelis, killing of over 73,000 people, probably more. We will never really know. Under the rubble, tens of thousands of children by targeted killing. It's devastation and it's a genocide. And what's happening in Kashmir is no less. And it can turn into something like that, especially because India has a strategic relationship with Israel and trying to follow suit, trying to utilize a similar tactics or strategies including in Kashmir. And we have to be very wary of that. And we need to highlight this to the global community that the next genocide, if there is potentially Kashmir. And we need to make all the global community aware that we cannot let this happen. Not on our watch.
Absolutely. The other thing that comes to my mind is, I know I mentioned that it would be the last question, but again, there's this element of the fact that, roughly 60,000 Pakistani diaspora, it's quite strong in Norway. So that being said, a great deal of remittance is also coming in. When we talk about foreign direct investment and investments coming into Pakistan, how are we seeing this economic relationship being built between Norway and Pakistan?
I think initially it's going to be small trade activities and negotiations on certain issues, our strong points and their strong points, and making sure that we can have some trade relations. The remittances, actually, a country like Norway and other countries in Europe are quite expensive to live in. So what you're going to get is a minimal amount compared to maybe the Middle East. So we have to maintain relationships everywhere, and the diaspora, as I'm part of that, matters to Pakistan. I think it's important that Pakistan recognizes the importance of the diaspora and the overseas Pakistanis and puts emphasis on that. And at the end of the day, Pakistanis overseas recognize where the homeland is. They recognize how important Pakistan is to them and their heritage, and they want to include that within their children's mentality. And that relationship, that coming and going, that ease of access, the ability to come to Pakistan and fund Pakistan wherever it can and be part of the political process and part of the economic drive is very important. So Pakistan should include that diaspora on all these different countries and gain initiatives in different local countries. Norway is one of them. And that's one way we can encourage the diaspora, but also government interaction with different governments where there are large Pakistani communities especially. I think inculcating the idea that Pakistan is fundamental to their activities as well, their economic well-being is very important.